So firstly, yeah, thanks for joining us today. As you know, put the series together and we're just running for a few more weeks now. And we hope that you find today's session and the others useful. I'd really like to thank Duke of Edinburgh for supporting us with this session this morning. And I'll pass over to Alan very shortly, I think. If we can just have the initial slides. Thanks, Alan. Great, so hopefully you can see the usual introductory slides. In terms of the etiquette, all the usual aspects apply. And we'll take questions, I think, at the end, sort of as per. So please, if you have questions, if you want to write them in the chat or make a note of them, and Alan will do his best to answer them for you when the time comes. Yeah, I think if we can just check, if you can check you're on mute for us, that will be helpful. Thank you very much. And then without further ado this morning, I shall pass on to Alan Pashley. So thanks, Alan. Over to you.
Thanks, Chris, and welcome everyone this morning. I'd just like to thank Mountain Trading for inviting us along today. I've been attending a number of these sessions over the past few months, and I think they've been really useful in terms of keeping me engaged with all the different activities, and I hope that they can continue on in the future in some shape or form as well, because it's been really beneficial, I think, to everyone that's been involved. So thanks a lot for your efforts there. I know that there's people in the room will know a lot about the Duke Edinburgh's Award already, but hopefully there'll be some little bits of information that you'll pick up this morning that might be helpful to you. And the session, we're going to look at an outline of the award, the various sections that are involved, and the levels, any requirements to help you develop your understanding of that programme so that you can support any aspiring DofE leaders that you come into contact with. And many people I know will have young people and children of their own that are involved in the programme, so hopefully some information here will be useful to you. We're also going to explore how some of the activities that you deliver through the skills courses could help young people in sections of the award other than the expedition, and also potentially through the residential section that the Gold participants do as well. So there's work like that going on already that you might not be aware of, and it might be something that you or colleagues might be interested in the future. So our mission as the DofE is to inspire, guide and support young people in their self-development and to recognise their achievements. The charity works with organisations from across the UK to help young people gaining some essential skills, experience and confidence and resilience to successfully navigate their adult lives. I think what I'd mention here is that it's been really rewarding to be working as part of the charity over these last few months and see how adaptable and how resilient our young people are in making modifications to the programmes that they had underway and being able to continue to work. So as we monitor the interaction of young people on their online accounts, we can see that young people are really busy doing activities and still working at those awards at this time, which is a great life experience for them. So here we've got a little bit about our kind of shape and form and our achievements in the north of England. So that's the area of the UK that I have responsibility for adult training and expedition programs that go on. You can see we've got about 25% of 14-year-olds in the North region started their bronze programme in the last year. So we're really pleased with that as a result. We've got about 40,000 volunteers and leaders that are really integral to the programme being delivered, and that's the kind of UK stat. So you'll come across lots of those leaders in the work that you do. You see in the top right here, we've got a bit of a breakdown of how things look, and this will be reflected in other regions throughout the UK as well for the bronze, silver and the gold participation figures. And we're looking at around 93,000 young people participating in the north of England at this time. One of the key areas that we are focusing on now is how we get more young people from a disadvantaged background involved. And that gives you an indication in terms of how we're doing on that currently. So the popularity of the award continues to grow. It actually is delivered in 130 countries and territories around the world. It's known as the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Foundation. So some of you might have had involvement in that. I know that some of you like to get further afield when we can. And those, the programmes are delivered in all sorts of establishments and organisations where young people might be. So we do work much wider than schools, which is kind of the area that people are most aware of, I guess, that we're working. But we couldn't achieve any of that work, any of those outcomes, without the involvement of the leaders that you yourselves might be or that you interact with. So we're really clear about that. And all that work that you deliver through your provider programmes, you're developing the skills in people to deliver those expedition sections in environments from the lowland to the mountains. But there are other areas of the programme as well that some people will be involved with. This is some statistics that came out from a report commissioned by Mountain Training a few years ago now. So this indicated to us, when asked Mountain Training candidates, there was about 45% of them were working with DofE participants in some way, likely that they were delivering some sort of information and training to those participants, and perhaps also being an assessor. So for each section that a young person does, they need an assessor who will write some complimentary and positive words about them at the end of their time of doing that section and saying how they've progressed. The terminology here does relate to the terminology and phraseology of awards from a few years ago, but that's kind of relevant to when the study was taken. Hopefully we can all interpret that and understand it. There are not an insignificant amount of candidates from Mountain Training that are working with young people indoors as well, and I think that those figures are on the increase all the time as people are engaging more in those activities. And also people are becoming aware of the fact that they can use them as activities to count towards their Duke of Edinburgh's Award programme as well. So here we've got an opportunity for you to engage with us a little bit this morning. There's a banner at the top of your screen, hopefully, that will have an annotate option. And under annotate, you can pick out from there the stamp or text. And all we're asking you to do, just for our fun and for our information really, just for you to indicate on the screen there under each of the columns where you might have supported a DofE participant either recently or in the past at some time. So there we go, so some people got the hang of it there, some ticks coming up. Yeah, it's a heart. I was hoping we'd get a heart somewhere. I'll just give everyone a chance to answer. That's good. So people have been involved with the residential as well. That's sometimes less known. Got a non-conformist with the blue arrow. That's great. Like to see it. And I'll just give Crez a minute just to take a screenshot of that before I move on. Thanks, folks. That's useful to know. It looks like people have got a good understanding of the different sections of the award and things. We're going to talk a little bit more about those as we move on through the presentation. Thanks. So just to mention here, so if you're involved with supporting a young person in doing their award, there's not necessarily a reason for you to be a licensed holder. If you want to reach the point of an organisation where you're marking yourself as delivering DofE and you're enrolling young people onto the programme and you're going to manage that progress, the way in which we ensure the kind of quality assurance of what's being delivered there and are able to support people doing that is through a licensing structure. And licensed organisations might have responsibility for a geographical area. They might be involved in working as part of a national organisation or association and supporting people through the programme that way. they might be delivering things in a very local way on a particular venue or premise, or actually businesses as well. So we have quite a number of businesses in the UK that deliver the award programme to young employees and apprentices as well. So some of you might have had involvement with those and be aware of that. So the leaders coming on mountain training provider courses might fit somewhere within these organisations. They might be heading up a licensed organisation, they might be operating from a centre, or it might be somebody who is involved with just a small group of young people that they're supporting through their expedition section. So that's how that all works anyway. In terms of the guiding principles of the award, these can often be kind of overlooked by people, so I try and bring them to people's attention when I'm doing training like this. I think these are the things that we often go back to of DofE workers to look at when people are presenting to us a plan to work with some young people in a programme, and we're asking the question as if it kind of fits into these ideals that we're working towards. So the award should be achievable by all young people, and it's been amazing for me working for over 20 years now with the award and the young people that I've met, overcoming some of the barriers and challenges to them participating, and can be great rewarding work, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted in the room here in that. It should be non-competitive, and it should be enjoyable and demanding commitment. So we're looking at young people being regularly involved with things. So where we're running a course where we're looking at particular skills of a young person in a particular activity, that's all beneficial to them. But what we'd be looking for them to add to that is that either leading to it and from it, or perhaps from that being the nucleus of the start of them developing some skills, to then regularly get involved in doing that activity for a set period of time, so they've actually demonstrated some commitment. So that's the kind of life skill side of it that we want them to be able to reflect on later and talk about. And there's all the other things on the page there. You don't need to memorise those, not a test on it later or anything, but I think they're worthwhile thinking about sometimes when we're putting programmes together for people. So we've got 3 levels of the award. Most people know that, the bronze, silver and the gold. And young people can come in at any of the levels. If they come in as a direct participant at silver or gold, what it's talking about here in the right hand corner of each of these is the additional time that the young people would need to do on top of this time of commitment here, so that when a gold participant who's worked their way through the award, or a gold participant who has come in direct, has made the same level of kind of commitment of time to achieve that award, either route that they've taken. We have minimum age requirements for young people to participate, so they're at the top of the screen, and what young people can start later than that. They have to have completed their award by their 25th birthday. A lot of the time young people will kind of do a bronze award in around 12 to 18 months, and then increasing up the silver and the gold levels. What we're looking for in terms of the time requirement, if they're doing 3 months of volunteering activity at bronze, we'll be looking at a minimum of an hour a week for those young people to participate in that activity. And if during the period they're on holiday, or they're unwell, or the provision they're taking part in is closed, then we're just looking that they would find ways in which that would even out to be that kind of time period. Most young people do far in excess of the minimum time requirements. Things like the volunteering section, the national statistics show us that young people, more than half of them, participate way beyond the minimum time period. So if you are working with young people in different avenues of your lives, getting them involved with this can often provide for them a great opportunity, but also help organisations to run and operate through that volunteering section as well. In terms of the expedition section, you'll see there's a kind of increase in time commitment, and this is looking at the qualifying aspect of the expedition. So young people will do a training phase, a practice phase, and then the qualifying expedition. They're the minimum requirements, and then there's hours of activity that they will need to do for each of those days, and it's 6 hours, 7 hours, and 8 hours as you go through the levels of the award. They can actually do half of that time journeying, so the other half of the time can be involved in some project work and some study. and that can be particularly useful to bring out the life skills and development areas for the teams that you're working with. So that's worthwhile knowing. And then at gold level, we've got a fifth section that young people need to complete to get their gold award, and that's the residential. So they need to do 5 days and 4 nights of that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on through the slides. So we've got a little bit more information here on the volunteering section. There's lots of ways that young people, as I mentioned, get involved here in helping organisations and clubs and things to work and operate, so they can help out their peer groups or younger groups to take part in activities. It could be something here that by volunteering, they actually get to understand some of the background of an activity that they're doing as well. So where we see kind of competitive climbing activities becoming more and more popular with young people, this is an area that we see young people taking part in now. If young people want to develop their fitness, then being involved in supporting those kind of clubs and things like that can help them to understand ways in which they might do that themselves. So all that kind of coaching, teaching and leadership things are probably relevant to mountain training candidates to be aware of, that you can get some help and support, particularly from the older age groups of participants involved with the award. The physical section, so this is where a participant gets a little bit hot and sweaty. They're the kind of activities that we're thinking about here. Extreme sports is an obvious one for us to think around with mountain training activities. The young people can get involved with doing that. And then the skills activities, so these are all the kind of hobby types of activities that young people get involved with. You can get young people do a bit of a compound of activity here, so lots of young people might have an interest in mountain training type activities, walking, mountaineering things, but they've also got an interest in media and communication, so they might demonstrate their learning and aid their learning by putting together a YouTube channel, doing some study of perhaps navigation skills, and while they're learning and understanding better those navigation skills, they're also creating something of a resource as well for others. So it's just some, I never fail to be surprised by what young people can produce anyway. Quite amazing stuff. So the expedition section, this is the one that probably has the greatest profile. It's easy for us to spot expedition teams when they're out there on walking expeditions, certainly. But young people can actually undertake their adventurous journey on all sorts of modes of travel. It needs to be by their own efforts. Some people would question maybe sailing and horse riding when it comes to that, but having taken part in activities and expeditions like that, I can assure you that there's definitely needs some degree of energy from yourself. But what we're interested in here, as well as the kind of physical aspects of young people carrying out that journey, is that they've been involved with planning and preparing for it, and as much involvement with that side of things as possible, so that they've got some transferable skills for life later on. So the principles of planning things, overcoming obstacles relevant to their expedition are probably relevant to many other things that they'll deal with as well. We do have an expedition training framework, so a kind of standard of what we would expect participants to have been trained in and had some practice on in many instances. So the leaders that we work with as providers, these are the kind of subject areas, and they do dovetail and marry quite closely to the things that we cover on a lot of leadership and skills courses with mountain training as well, because we're preparing people to go into the same sorts of environments there. But further information on that is available online, and you can look at in detail, or you can direct people online to look at things there. No great surprises in what's included there, but there is that kind of criteria as to work to for a bit of guidance. You probably experience the same as I do as delivering courses now, that we do deal increasingly with people coming in with little experience themselves of being in an outdoor environment, but are looking to inspire and support young people out in these environments as well. So having some kind of framework can be quite useful to them. To complete the expedition section, young people need to meet what's called the 20 conditions, and this is what the expedition assessor would be measuring and looking at. There's a few examples on the screen here, those 20 conditions, and again, they're available online for anyone to see. But you need to have between 4 and 7 participants in a team. People think about that in relation to safety, but we're also coming from the angle of trying to generate the right group dynamics for young people, so that they have to deal with finding ways of getting along with people in a challenging environment. Accommodation must be by camping or by some basic self-catering accommodation. Again, we feel that there are experiences that are brought out through those environments that are really key to young people's opportunity and development. And then the expeditions will normally take place between the end of March and October. That will be considered the expedition season, but many expeditions happen outside of that time. And we would be advising that people need to ensure that the staff are competent to manage the young people in those environments and the weather conditions that they might come across and things like that. And the hours of daylight being another factor to consider. So the residential section that we mentioned earlier, you can think about doing an activity-based one. So this is where young people will go away with other young people that they don't know. And they've probably come together from different backgrounds. There's an image on the screen there, shows some young people doing some conservation work. That's really quite popular. And many of the national parks and organisations like that will have a programme that runs commonly around the kind of Easter break, May break, over the summer, so that young people are perhaps at university or at that kind of age might want to get involved at those times in helping those organisations run and function. You could as well look at things that us as providers for mountain training might be involved with. So things where you've got people who are aspiring to be mountaineers might want to get involved in a kind of combined course over a 5-day period where they're looking at hill skills and climbing skills, developing that kind of mountaineering aspects of things. What's important for us to understand is that the activities are really key to DofE participants, but so is everything else around it as well. So what those young people are doing in the evenings and in this sort of downtime is really quite crucial to us in terms of what we're looking to develop in them, as well as those hard skills. Just a little talk now around the courses that we run as the Duke of Edinburgh's Award. So we refer to them as the Modular Training Framework. The idea is here that wherever a leader is when they come to us and get involved with the programme, we'll be able to provide them with some support and some information so that they can go on to support participants taking part in the award. Some people will be involved with the Duke of Edinburgh and never go out on an expedition and be involved with it that way, so we have courses to help them. Some people will be involved with that and they'll go out on expedition and things as well. So we have the Expedition Supervisor Training course, the Expedition Assessor Accreditation Scheme, and the DofE Expedition Skills courses in particular to help them. We are combining the Expedition Supervisor and the Expedition Assessor course. We've done a lot of work on that already and we were launching it this year, but we've actually concentrated our efforts over the recent months in terms of online training. So a number of these courses are now available online, and we'll be running those across a virtual platform for people as well. What's quite useful for you to know as providers is that a number of these courses do get continued professional development points. So if a candidate wants to log on to their D-log and has attended one of those courses, they can record it on there, and that will help them with their points towards maintaining their standards as a candidate for mountain training as well. I think I've sort of covered most of the information about those courses on the previous slide. So then it's just really just rounding up now just to talk to you about the fact that over this COVID pandemic, we've made some temporary changes to the award programme. If you look up DofE with a Difference online, you'll find lots of information and a useful frequently asked questions section on there as well. So if you're advising anybody or guiding anybody around DofE activities and you're interested to know. We've made changes in particular to ensure that young people can continue to take part in the award. They can choose to park some of it and pick it up at a later date if that's appropriate to them, or with some modifications that mean that they'll be able to do things in a slightly different way to how they might normally. And in particular, we're trying to encourage participants to take part in activity close to home as well. So if they're doing their expedition, can they stay on the grounds of their establishment or organisation? Can we be considerate and think about the additional pressures with people being on staycations and a great number of people getting out into what we would refer to as wild country areas, but into the national parks and the upland areas as well, so we can kind of manage some of the pressures there during this time. So that's what that information is all about there for you. So I'm quite happy to take questions. There's our information on the screen there. If you wanted to talk to somebody and you're from the north of England, so that's kind of Manchester, Sheffield and north up to the Scottish border, you're welcome to get in touch with the North of England office, but we have offices throughout the UK and representatives that will be able to help you out with any inquiries. You can even find us online and things anyway, but I'm quite happy to take questions. I know there's a lot of information there, but I'll hand back to Chris at this point and say thanks very much, everybody, for now.
Great, thank you very much, Alan. Okay, folks, well, over to you. We've got, we've got some time now for you to pick Alan's brains and, ask questions that will be hopefully helpful, for you moving forward. If you have a question, if you'd like to unmute and fire away. Yeah.
Hi, I just have a minor question, just something I heard about from a friend, where it's to do with how things are going with COVID. This person is, I think he's 24, and he was planning on finishing off his expedition last April, but obviously that got cancelled, and he's finished everything else off. And I think he's worried he's not going to be able to complete his award because he'll be 25 soon and won't get a chance to do the expedition. I was wondering if there's any sort of extension you're considering for circumstances like that or so on.
Yeah, so there are lots of participants who will be in a similar position to that, really. So we anticipate those things happening, and for various reasons of perhaps illness or family illness and things, people can find themselves with a narrow window to get their award completed by. We do have a process that we can go through to make an application for that. I have to say it's not granted in all cases. We would help advise in terms of what the case needs to be presented like and what we should be saying. So, we're certainly supportive of people if things like a global pandemic has got in the way, as being reasons why we might look for an extension. The other side to that as well, a bit like other organisations would do as well, is we would look to have a kind of action plan and a time at which that award would be completed by, so it didn't run indefinitely. So there are ways in which expeditions in some organisations are able to continue at the moment. It's not our place to kind of tell people whether expeditions can happen or not, because there are things that are specific to the different organisations. But what we have done with the temporary changes is made it more possible, more flexibilities to mean that young people can hopefully take part in something with their organisation. So happy to pick up that query up offline as well, and you're welcome to contact me, and I'll make sure you get through to the right people for your regional region for that part.
It's not something I'm directly involved with. It's just something somebody was mentioning to me the other day, and just think it's a good opportunity to find out more about it.
Absolutely, yeah. Great question. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mehmet.
Yeah, there's one just come up on the chat.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's come through for you from Stu, I think it is. So just asking about with the DofE with a difference continue into next year. So this is something that we anticipate may need to roll on, but we want to put some parameters around it to help people. So the changes in effect go from 2018, when participants might have been enrolling, would be captured in the DofE with a difference programs, and then going up until the summer of 2021 at this point. What happens with the virus and various kind of lockdown situations going forward, we can speculate on whether those things become more localised and become even more challenging probably for us to manage as a national organisation in looking at what would be allowable for one local area, not another, in terms of how they've been impacted. But yeah, we will try and ensure that people stay safe. That's really key for us, the staff, the volunteers and the participants. But where possible, done in a safe way, can we continue to participate, and that will go on to the summer next year. And if it needs to, we'd look at whether that would be extended as well.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Stu, for that question.
I'll take it that was very thorough with what I explained.
Yeah, absolutely, Alan. I'm curious to know, whilst we've got people here in the room, if there are things that the mountain training could do, working with DofE, to make your life easier in terms of presenting information or sharing, just moving forward. So, and scope for joint work, whether that's getting, how we engage more people from diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, so I mean, just while people are thinking about that, I mean, I know from conversations that we've had, we've talked about the kind of pathway for mountain training candidates as well. So as the Duke Renovers Award, we're in touch with a lot of aspiring and people who are interested in becoming leaders and perhaps getting some formal training around that. And it's how I think we make improvements and developments to the handover and the passage that those people go through. So I know myself that when I try and take part in something that I've not been involved in that organisation before, you can come across frustrations of how to log into something or find a way around it. And we're always trying to kind of help that situation on as best we can, really. So interested to hear from anybody about things like that in the future, because we talk to lots and lots of people who want to get involved. We just want to make sure that the time poor people that passage is.
There's a question from Stu on the chat.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think so, Stu.
Hi there, hi. Yeah, it was just the Mountain Training Zone Hill Skills and Mountain Skills programme. I was just wondering if, as part of DofE participants training, if they were doing quite extensive training for their expeditions, do many of them, if they're covering the framework for hill skills and mountain skills, do many of them actually get certificated for that as well?
Yeah, so there is lots of crossover there, Stu. You're right, and I would say the answer at this time is that not a lot of our expedition participants do those hill skills and mountain skills courses, or hill and mountain skills courses. However, I think that will change over time. So we're always happy to find things that we can direct people to and for them to undertake. We wouldn't, I don't think, reach a point by which we said that was a compulsory thing, and I don't think that's what you're asking here. But more importantly, we'll have young people take part in an expedition, and we will stimulate some interest in them in wanting to continue activities in that kind of shape or form, whether it be on foot or by other modes of travel as well. And we're always interested to know that there are clear ways for them to go. So I'm so old that I've been involved with DofE activity when the only kind of direction we could give people was pretty much to go and do a mountain leaders course, which would be great, but might be too big a step for people. So now that there are a few more courses available and a few different pathways that young people can and participants can take, I think that's useful to them to do. And the age guidance and restrictions for mountain training as well fit in as well for some of our participants to be able to take part in those things. I think where we would see in general terms of them happen more is where young people tend to access the outdoors and get involved in the outdoors and have quite a strong appetite for that because of the environment that they're in. We work with young people that grow up in quite rural areas, and we work with young people that work in the city areas as well, where some of these things might feel more out of reach to them. And we are involved with projects that help to support those young people getting involved as well. And they might do that through a kind of programme then where all the participants take part in those mountain training hill skills courses as well. So I think it's developing is the answer, but not many at this point.
That's great, because I see mountain training yet offer it the candidate registration for free as well for the younger age groups. So it'd be great to take advantage of that, and particularly some gold groups that I've got do a lot of training. I think they would cover the frameworks, particularly of hill skills. So yeah, I think I'd be keen to maybe look into that with some participants. So thanks for the answer.
Yeah, I think that's right. And we have people working across the different levels. If people are focused on the older age groups, you perhaps ask the question at some point, why not do those as a pathway for young people that are going to do it? Because it provides for you a very detailed framework that links in with things that they might take up in the future as well. So, yeah, we'd certainly support that.
Great, thanks.
Great, thank you, Stu, for that. And on that point, you know, those skills courses are something that we're looking at, and how we can promote those more effectively. You know, whether it's to schools or volunteers. Yeah, so we have, you know, more younger people on the pathway sooner, in effect. You know, feeling confident in their skills. So thank you.
Yeah, and the DofE activity, we do encourage people to show stickability with an activity, but sometimes young people will try a few different things first. And, you know, I've been involved, and many colleagues that have been involved with things where a young person finds something that suddenly captures their interest, and they've gone on to, you know, be involved in those activities at international levels, competing and things like that as well. So we're a pathway in as well for people to take part in things as well. So it's all good, really.
There's a good question here from Jason.
You hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so obviously I'm aware that DofE have got an expedition skills course, I think it's called, and obviously
right.
mountain training do the exped skills module. So I just wanted to know what the difference is. So how as a provider the exped skills course could I kind of encourage DofE people to come along, do the lowland leader and then the exped skills module? Or would they just say, you know what, I'm just going to do the DofE course, you know, the expert skills course? So what's the difference, really?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So in a lot of ways, there aren't any differences. The content's the same, and to some extent, what those different courses are trying to support people with, and the knowledge base, the understanding, the skills and experience for are quite similar. The DofE Expedition Skills course, when we developed that, it was done off the back of, we wanted to fill a gap that existed there, and at a similar time there's the Expedition Skills module developing. For the Expedition Skills module, you need to have taken part in one of the leadership awards before you can progress onto that, and in terms of the DES course, we'd be allowing people to take part in that might be doing a supportive role. So where you have an organisation that's delivering multiple teams out on an expedition, not every leader there needs to be experienced and have the knowledge base up to a kind of national standard leadership award, but what information do they need to help them in terms of managing a team of people with some additional support around it, really. So a lot of the fact that those things exist in parallel is to do with organisations trying to solve the same problems, really. So people like myself are always involved in discussions about how do those routes need to develop? Do they still need to exist or not? What's the right way for people to go? So for us as an organisation, we just want to make sure that people have got some routes that they can follow. So there's some little differences between them. Routes in, there's a difference and things, really. The advice that's given to different organisations differs across the country to some specifics. So we see some places in the UK where one or other courses advise as the one to go, but from my perspective, it would be about making sure that people have got the opportunity to explore the subject area, really. We have lots of people who do the DofE Expedition Skills course, and then at a later date they'll progress further with it. So hopefully that answers that one for you.
Just a couple of other things though. I mean, I have heard that mountain training may be changing the fact that you have to do the a leadership award before the skills module, and I'm just wondering where that will fit in then. And also I find that, because obviously I'm a lowland leader provider, that I do have some people coming to me from the DofE, which is great, but I do feel that they seem to be pushed onto it, and that they have a DofE kind of centered kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, like an idea, really, so that when I'm trying to run the course and talking about flora and fauna, they're not really interested in kind of, you know. And I just wondered whether you know, DofE could kind of try and change that as a whole, as an organisation, to say that the Lowland Leader Award isn't just for DofE. You know, it's also about, you know, the whole scheme, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I mean, I can pick up with you out of the meeting if you've got issues that are perhaps specific to a geographical area where that's happening. Things. So, you know, it's really key for us that the messages get out clearly what the different award programs are for. Unfortunately, often we're trying to communicate that with people who don't necessarily understand all the language and terminology and some of the detail that we might understand. There is a review going on at the moment in terms of the hill walking awards for mountain training, and I'm sure you've heard about that and fed into it like we have. Mountain training are not there just to serve DofE leaders, so you know their programs are wider than that and to attract a wider audience. So you know, somebody like myself will feed in terms of what we feel needs to be included in those courses and what would be beneficial to our leaders, and others will as well, and hopefully find a compromise position that it's beneficial to everybody really. We're providers ourselves, and yeah, you know, people could think, well, that subject area within a course is less relevant to me and what I'm going to do now, but we're really clear in what we market and what we present in the introductions to our courses and how we deliver them, that they're as DofE leaders, they're aspiring to a nationally recognised course for a mountain training route, and they need to meet the requirements of that award really. So although, you know, as I've done working with rangers and walking guides and things, they might have had a stronger knowledge base and understanding of different aspects to a DofE leader. The reverse would be same for sort of managing groups and remotely supervising groups and things like that really. So
yeah,
I think there'll always be kind of development and areas for us to keep on progressing around these things, and it's just about us having healthy conversation about that really. And I do think that from my experiences, the audience that we work with continues to develop as well, so we have to try and keep a pace of that really in terms of their knowledge base and experience. And I think we do that well. We'll always find the faults. Yeah, that's just the nature of us, isn't it? But yeah, so yeah, if you want to pick that up in terms of having conversations about how people are arriving, we try and ensure that people have material in their hand that they can look at as well, or you know, via email and things, so they understand what it is that they're signing up for when they do whatever course it is and whatever route, and what the outcome of that will be for them really.
Brilliant, thank you.
No problem, Jason. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Jane made a comment that if it's okay, I'll read out, and obviously, Jane, if you'd like to unmute yourself, please do so. It's just saying that most DofE leaders, expedition supervisors and managers are encouraged to undertake the Lowland Leader Award and Hill and Moorland Leader courses from their sort of centre.
Yeah, that was basically to follow on from Stu's comment from mentioning about kind of do most young people get the opportunity, and from my experience it's been that we would open up those opportunities to leaders and supervisors or managers, that there is somebody that has been given that opportunity, whether they take that opportunity up to do a mountain training course, but whether that, like Alan's just said, whether that's via kind of the DES course, the DofE Expedition Skills course, or whether that's pursuing the personal, obviously, route of mountain training course of Lowland Leader or Hill and Moorland Leader. So it was just to pick up on that. So it wasn't really in conflict with Jason's question. It was more to kind of say that the opportunities are there to be encouraged. Absolutely.
Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, so just to give it some background and things, we have operational officers, as we refer to them, out there advising all those licensed organisations, and they're kept up to speed as far as we can possibly do with all the different routes that people might follow to become qualified or experienced in different areas of travel. So we're trying to give people the best advice we can, and it's a bit like going back to that pathway message that I was talking about before really, and anything we can do to ensure that mountain training providers get the right candidates on their courses, that are, you know, you've got a good marriage in terms of the outcomes that are looking to be achieved, the better for us and for mountain training providers. So yeah, that's an ongoing challenge for us, and I'm sure it always will be, but yeah, we'll keep improving it as best we can.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead, Nicholas.
Do you have many people in the north of England doing the Gold Award, and are they kind of encouraged that maybe lowland leader might be an option for them, because age-wise it is a bit more accessible, isn't it, than say mountain leader or hill and moorland leader? So I know that there are definitely some providers that are involved with DofE who then also, I guess you could call it upselling, but it's kind of progressing the pathway in a way for those young people, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, I have a sales background as well, so I don't mind the kind of sales terminology and things in terms of upselling for people. But you know, if it's providing them with something that they'd want, and in some instances they don't even know it exists yet, that's fine. So yeah, so as we put the messages out there, people are aware of things. In a lot of ways, the lowland leader course is still in early days. So we have a program that takes a year or so to cycle through. It takes quite a bit of time for that to get out to the wider audience than people like perhaps that are in the room today, where we're heavily involved with it on a day and weekly basis. So we need to keep getting those messages out there. And yeah, we have participants that undertake their Gold Award and then go on to do other things. So often Gold, or on occasion, Gold participants might be involved in supporting other levels of the award as well. And we can all think of examples of where they might be able to do that on an expedition as well, and some additional hands to the pump to help things useful. And if they can go on, and I've certainly mentored and supported young people doing that as Gold participants to go on to become lowland leaders and other types of leaders as well. So like I say, we often stimulate an interest in somebody, and from my perspective, even if it's not a lifelong career from somebody, to be involved in leadership of a lowland walking team, everything is really beneficial experience for them to transfer into other aspects of life later on. Things I think we'd all generally agree with that kind of position. So yeah, it's great that there's all these routes available to people now. I wish they'd have been there when I was involved at the early stages, but you know, there was things there for me, but it was bigger steps probably.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. And I'm just, wondering if any of the providers that were listening yesterday are interested in writing blogs, because there'd be some great case studies, from the young people about their progressive journeys through the DofE type of course and attaining qualifications on the way. Lots of lovely stories that perhaps we can all get, better at sharing to get the word out, and just food for thought there. There's more work to be done.
Do you want to move to feedback and things now, Chris? I don't think.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, obviously, if people have any other questions, please do shout out. I guess only other thing that occurred to me that, was at the moment, if people are getting out, God, all the litter that's been sadly left on the hill is certainly an area where young people, in terms of that environmental aspect, we can all get involved with. Yeah,
so I mean, I live on the edge of the Peak District here, and there's lots of DofE participants get involved with volunteering to do litter picking. Litter picking's really caught the imagination of young people and their kind of awareness of the oceans and the plastic litter there and things. But yeah, regularly involved in crag cleanups and things like that as well. So yeah, that wider kind of social responsibility around some of the activities that they're interested in take part in, it's great to see.
As I say, please do give us feedback. We're into the last couple of weeks, so feedback obviously will be helpful specifically for Alan and DofE for this session today. That maybe that you go away and there's a question that emerges. So if you send that in to us, we can forward that to Alan, and we can add it to the edited version of the webinar that will go online with some FAQs, if that's helpful for people. So apart from that, I think if we nudge the slides forward, Alan, thank you. Yeah. I think we'll perhaps move on then just to wrap up. So just to remind you that we have 2 sessions next week. So I'm not sure how many of you currently engage with your local youth hostels, but we've got Michael from the Youth Hostel Association, which will be next Tuesday morning. So opportunities to understand about engagement with, hopefully opportunities to get more clients, which is what people will like. So that's the Youth Hostel Association next Tuesday, and this time next week we'll have Ian from the Outward Bound Trust, and he'll be talking to us about, you know, ways to engage, obviously highly skilled with working with younger adults, and you know, keeping those people engaged effectively. So hopefully those will be of interest to you. So yeah, see what your diary is looking like next week if you're not busy working. Okay, well, I think then what we'll do is we'll wrap up for today. Huge thanks to everybody, to all of you, for giving your time this morning. And a special thanks to Alan for his time on behalf of Duke of Edinburgh. And yeah, we'll look forward to working closely together moving forwards, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. All right, thanks folks, and enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.